Hello and welcome to MAK Holistic Yoga. So, for our mental health minute today, I wanted to share about how yoga has actually affected my own personal mental health. So, I started to go to yoga a couple years ago, and when I arrived, I was probably the tightest running soccer body in the room. And I had the busiest mind. I remember feeling very frustrated that we weren't moving as quickly as my body was used to or as intensely. And I found my mind wandering. I wasn't able to keep up with the breath. But I remember at the very end of my first class, laying in Shavasana, resting pose, and feeling this overwhelming calm and ease just wash through my body. And I realized that I was completely in the moment. I wasn't thinking about the future and planning. I wasn't ruminating about the past. And it was really life changing for me. I carried that sense of peace with me as I left the class. And I remember kind of feeling like the Tin Man on Wizard of Oz, like all of my body just felt like I had more space and I had less tension throughout my whole body. So I kept coming back. And for many years, I only went for 1 hour per week. But even that began to change the way that I found myself responding to stressful events of my life. And also, I just had more mobility throughout the activities that I was doing at that time. So that's my personal story with yoga. Yoga itself, many people are confused about what this practice is. It's an originally Indian and now globalized practice. And so for some, it is a part of a religious experience. For some, it is more of a physical exercise. Um, the yogic philosophers have different definitions of yoga, even within their own philosophy. So, for example, the Bhagavad Gita says that yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. I like that definition. While Hatha yoga seems to say that yoga is a state of individual and universal awareness. The word yoga actually comes from the Sanskrit term yoj, which means union. And that's what it's been for me. Like I said, it's a way that I unite my mind, body, and spirit and just arrive in the present moment. So that union is something that I hope you can experience, and it's my honor to share with you in one of your first yoga classes. Thanks for being here. All right, so we're gonna get started seated on a blanket and go ahead and get one blanket and two blocks. Now, if you don't have any blocks, that's fine. You can use books or pillows or even a chair. So go ahead and pause the video and make sure that you have those three things before we begin. All right, so we're gonna be talking a lot today about foundation and how important it is to have a strong foundation um, from which to expand and grow. So, all of our lives we spend on our beautiful feet, but they don't always get the attention that they deserve. So, we're going to start out giving our feet a little bit of attention. Go ahead and weave each finger into each toe as if you were giving your foot a handshake. Now, this might be a little bit difficult, but just try to wedge it in like you were getting a pedicure and they put those foam things in between your toes. And once you have those fingers between your toes, begin to roll your ankle really gently, just feeling into this joint that supports you all day long, every day. Flexing the foot, maybe pulling the ankle just real gently, just warming up the feet, feeling into your arch. And slowly weave your fingers out of your toes and pick up your other foot. Now, on each of our feet, we have 4 points of connection. So we have our big toe, we have our pinky toe mound, and then we have our outside of our heel and the inside of our heel. And throughout the class, I'm going to be mentioning to ground down through all 4 corners of the feet. And that's actually what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's weave our fingers in between our toes. And just do the best you can. If you can't quite get in there, that's all right. Sometimes our toes are so kind of confined by our shoes that they're not used to spreading out and taking out space. Begin those gentle ankle rolls, flexing the foot, maybe pulling the toes back slightly, and also forward. All right, so now that our feet, our foundational instruments, are all warmed up, we are going to come to sit on our heels. So move your blocks away for now. Roll off your blanket and move that to the side. And come to seated on your heels. Hooking your toes, maybe lining up your heels and your sits bones. Feel that stretch all through your feet. Yeah, that feels really nice. Should feel pretty good. And on your next inhale, come forward into a tabletop position. Line up your knee and your hip and take your palms about one palm in front of your shoulders, just slightly in front of your shoulders. On your next inhale, press away from the mat and lift your belly, coming into a cat position, like a scared cat. And inhale into cow. Lift the chin, the chest, and the hips, arching the spine. Exhale into cat. Link breath to movement here as we begin to warm up the spine. Kind of feeling more of a fluid motion instead of too distinct, allowing them to kind of flow into one another. Your feet should be untucked as you move through 2 more cycles of breath. Inhaling into cow, exhaling into cat, and coming back into a neutral position. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, and press the thigh bones towards the back of the room, keeping those knees bent into our first downward dog of the day. Focus on pressing through your hands, not worrying about where your heels are, how straight your legs are. Think about lengthening your spine. Inhale, come up into your tippy toes as if you were wearing high heels. And then exhale, allow your right heel to float towards the mat. Inhale, tippy toes, and exhale, left heel towards the mat. Continue to link your breath in your movement this way as we warm up the back of our bodies, our hamstrings. Maybe you're feeling this a little bit even in your Achilles heel, the lower part of your calf. I have a lot of cracking and my ankles. Maybe you're with me on that as your toes grip the mat. And press your heels, invite them towards the mat. They might not make it. I don't know if my heels ever make it to the mat. That's okay. But bend your knees, and for one more inhale, stretch your hips towards the back corner of the room. Step, hop, or jump to the front of your mat. I'm going to be facing you, but you should be at the front of your mat. And come into a forward fold by creating 2 fists and kind of putting them between the arches of your feet. That's about hips width distance apart. And fold forward. Let your head hang heavy. Shake it yes or no. Perhaps taking opposite elbows into ragdoll, moving slowly side to side. Bend those knees. Let the top of your body release any tension. On your next inhale, reverse swan dive. So what I mean by that is raise your chest with your arms. Your chin is guiding you as you come up, arms overhead into extended mountain pose. Inhale, stretch up into the sky, and exhale, allow those hands to float down into mountain pose. And let's take that for 3 cycles of breath, bending the knees, gathering up the energy towards the ceiling. Let your gaze float up towards the ceiling, palms face one another at the top, and exhale, start to float the arms down. And let's take it for one more cycle of breath, but this time go as slow as you possibly can, as your body will allow you to. As you inhale, your arms up. And exhale as if you were blowing through a straw, the arms down. Now come back into forward fold, checking to still make sure that your feet are hips width distance. And float the arms up one more time, this time grabbing the left hand and pulling it towards the side, as if your body was making a C. Inhale to lengthen, and exhale, pulling your arm, feeling that stretch all the way down your side body. Inhale back up, switch arms, and exhale to the other side. Feeling the space open up. Notice the sensation through your ribs, all the way up to your arm. Inhale back up. Let's do that one more time on both sides. So grab that left arm and begin to float toward your right side. Inhale back up. And for the last time, pull your side body towards the left, pulling on your right wrist. And inhale your body back up. Go ahead and plant your hands. Come into a forward fold. Plant your hands on the mat. One palm's distance in front of your shoulders, like we did in tabletop. And press back into a downward facing dog, just briefly, as we lower our left knee and bring our right. You can go ahead and you can take your leg there, or you can sweep it through if it's in your body today, into a lunge position. Keep your left toes tucked as you rise up. You can place your hands on your thigh or even on your hips and just begin to sink into this position, to this lunge position. We want to, as we're going into these poses, we want to make sure that we're meeting the edge of our sensation. So There shouldn't be any pulling, there shouldn't be any pain. Speaking of which, you might want to go ahead and put a blanket underneath your knee, so give it some more padding. It's a tender part of our bodies we want to protect. So with that blanket under your knee, come back into a lunge position. And feel the rhythm of your breath. Connect back. Your next inhale, plant your left foot, hook your left toes, and press up. And as you do so, begin to stretch your right hand until you're in a twist. Now, if that's feeling too intense for you, go ahead and lower that back leg. But if you're feeling strong and stable, come into that twist, taking your gaze forward for now. We want to keep our necks long to that revolved twist. Twists are great for our parasympathetic nervous system as we rest and digest. Kind of signals to our bodies. And it does aid in digestion, which is a nice plus. And exhale, plant your hands down, and in whatever way that feels most comfortable to you, let's take a lunge on the other side. So maybe you're going to take a downward dog. Maybe you're just going to come down to your knees. Help your left leg in front, lining up heel and knee. Just sinking into this position. Notice the difference between both sides of your body. So interesting how we're not symmetrical. Sink into this lunge position, making sure your back toes are hooked onto the mat. And if you have the space, you can even bring your arms above your head, sinking a little bit deeper at the edge of sensation. And if there's any pain at all coming out of the pose, plant your right hand onto the mat and lift up on your back leg as you twist to the side, towards your left side. Bringing your gaze forward as you lengthen from the crown of your head to your tailbone. Here as well, inhale to lengthen and exhale to twist. You might feel some shaking here. That's absolutely fine. Just means your body's warming up. But if it becomes too intense, you can go ahead and lower that back knee. Most important thing is to feel into this twist. Signaling to our bodies that it's time to digest, it's time to calm down from our busy, busy lives. And come out of the twist by planting both hands on the mat and moving your left leg into a downward facing dog. Take a moment to pedal out. I like to kind of move my hips side to side and release a little bit of that hip stretch we just did. Roll forward into a plank position and slowly lower down. Now you might, if you were using a blanket, you actually might want to move that blanket for now. You might need it later. But slowly lower down until you're laying on the mat with your palms next to your shoulders. Press the tops of your feet into the ground and lift your gaze and your hands as you come into handless cobra. So this might not look like much, but if you're with me, you know the lower back is firing up. And exhale. Take an ear to the mat. Just relax for a moment. Hard work. Inhale. Let's come back into handless cobra for the last time. Can you lift your chin a little bit higher? And exhale. Take an ear to the mat. Just taking a moment to rest. Inhale, press off the mat into a downward facing dog. Lift your right leg and sweep it through. Keep your feet as if they're on railroad tracks. So we don't want to be in a tightrope right now. We want to be on railroad tracks, parallel. Keep your left heel off the mat. Take your hands to your hips or your thigh and rise up into crescent lunge. Now lift and spread your toes and imagine those 4 points of contact, that strong and firm foundation in your front foot. Inhale your arms up, softening your shoulders a bit. See if you can find a bit more space between the bottom of your earlobes and the top of your shoulders. Release the tension of your upper body. You should feel your lower body heating up a bit. Connecting back to your breath. Let's take 2 more breaths in this position. And on your second exhale, plant your hands, step back into a downward dog, lifting the leg to bring it through to crescent on the other side. So once again, before you come up, make sure that your feet are paralleled on railroad tracks. Hands to hips as you rise or thigh. And inhale your arms up, feeling that lightness of the air in the arms and the upper body with that heaviness, that stability, that groundedness in the lower body. Maybe lift and spread those toes and plant one corner at a time, grounding down through that front point of contact, that front foot. Let's take 2 deep breaths, signaling to our body that we're okay, we're strong, we can handle this. On your second exhale, plant your hands down, drop your knees to the sides of your mat. Go ahead and just take a moment into child's pose. So your toes are touching and your knees are out wide. And just allow your body to soften. In child's breath, we can feel the breath in the backs of our bodies. So feel your back ribs expand on the inhale and deflate on the exhale. Just enjoying this position of rest for a moment. Sometimes work makes rest so sweet. All right, so find yourself in standing. Whatever way you want to get there is totally fine. It doesn't need to be fancy. And we're going to come into Warrior Two. So Warrior Two is a position of strength and stability. So that's what we want to harness today as we venture into one of our first yoga practices. So we are going to begin with our left toes parallel the long side of the mat and our right toes parallel the short side of the mat. So you should be able to draw a line from your front heel all the way to your back arch. Take a moment to hover your knee as much as you can right in front of your ankle so there's a straight line, ankle over knee. And once again, feel into those four corners of both feet so that you are grounded. On your inhale, float your arms up into a straight line, Warrior Two. Flex your hands as if you were shooting energy, shooting kind of like lightning streams out of your fingertips. And see if you can sink in a bit deeper. And just arrive into the stability of the pose, the strength of the pose. So amazing how the way we move our bodies actually affects our emotional atmosphere. In this pose, I feel courage and strength. Go ahead and flip the right palm, lean slightly forward, and as if you were painting the ceiling, come into a reverse warrior position. So maybe you're going to find your hand on your thigh. Maybe it'll wrap all the way to the front thigh if you have that space in your body. Wherever it lands, the focus is not how it looks, but rather how it feels. So think about when we are in Tadasana and we were pulling our arm, stretching our side bodies. And exhale, come into triangle pose by stretching your front leg straight and bringing your hand to the mat. So it's almost as if your lower body was a triangle. Now your hand might come all the way to the mat. You might be taking those blocks and coming in this. That feels even better to me, so I'm going to stay here. Or you might want to keep it even higher on your thigh. Find the place where you can have a straight back, straight spine. Once again, flexing the hands, finding the energy shooting through your fingertips. Take a big, slow exhale, signaling to your parasympathetic nervous system, I'm good, I'm strong. And exhale your hands back down to the mat, step back, and lift your right leg just briefly. Sweep it through, or you can help it through, however you need to get there, into Warrior Two on the other side. So draw that line between your heel, your front heel, and your back arch. Float your arms up, hovering your knee over your ankle. Warrior Two, roll your shoulders onto your spine, broadening your chest, lifting your collarbones towards the sky. Arrive and settle. Notice how this pose feels in your body. Notice the places of tension, the places of ease, without analysis or judgment, simply noticing. On your next inhale, flip your palm, paint the ceiling into reverse warrior. You can go ahead and take your gaze to your back shoulder, to the ground, or even towards your hand if that feels good. But if there's any cranking in the neck, want to make sure you keep that length. This is also called the humble warrior. Windmill the arms until you find yourself in Trikonasana, triangle position, on this other side. So you might want to bring that block once again. Sometimes I like to put it on the outside of the leg just for more broadening in the chest. Try to line up your shoulders and your hands. Flex your hands. Spread out your fingers. And take one long, slow breath. In, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3. Bring your hands down to the mat. Plant your hands, step back, and let's drop our knees and come back into child's pose, letting the effect of that work just wash down our bodies. Now, if child's pose doesn't feel so good for you, you might want to, this be a good time to get a chair. You could be hovering on a chair, maybe taking a block to your forehead. But finding a position where you can really let go. Go ahead and move the block. Come to a seated position. Actually, I'm going to face this way, but it doesn't matter which way you face. And plant your feet on the mat and slowly roll down your spine as if you could roll one vertebrae at a time, coming into kind of a constructive rest pose for a moment as I explain. So you are going to place a pillow, or it could even be your blanket or a block, whatever you're using as a block, in between your legs for this pose. We're going to come into a pelvic tilt, a bridge pose. So plug your shoulders onto the mat as if you were plugging in your phone to charge. Find some real contact and do the same with your elbows. Turn your palms to face one another and electrify your fingers as you press into your shoulders and find your pelvis floating off the mat. Squeeze the block and feel how that lights up your back body, your glutes. And if it's in your practice, if it's in your body right now, you can also broaden the chest, open it up a bit more by interlacing your fingers underneath your back. But find what feels good. Find where you can shine your heart forward, create more space in your chest. See if you can tilt your chin just a bit further from your chest. This is a great pose for reversing all of the hunching over the phone and computer we do all day long. So if it feels a little uncomfortable, that might be why. And exhale, release the spine onto the mat. Go ahead and take the block out from underneath your legs. Hug your knees towards your chest and begin to move in some slow clockwise circles as you massage your lower back. Coming into this present moment, Trying to leave the thoughts of the past in the past, trying not to jump ahead to the future. Revolve your circle to a counterclockwise direction. And come back to neutral, no rush. And slowly allow your legs to drop to the left side. Bring your right arm into a cactus T position, so you should be at a 90-degree angle with your elbow. And if you want to make the twist a bit more dramatic, you might want to place your left hand on your thigh and turn your gaze the opposite direction of your knees. Inhale, feel your spine lengthen, and exhale, twist. Take 2 more luxurious breaths. See if you can twist just a bit more. If you're feeling any tension in your low back, bring your knees farther away from your body. Just making that twist a bit less intense. We want to find that edge of sensation that feels good. We never want to wrench or crank our bodies. Inhale, one leg at a time, back up. Hug the knees to the chest, and let's do the same on the other side. So slowly lower your knees, finding that sweet spot, that twist that feels good in the low back. You might have some cracking that feels really nice sometimes. Taking your left arm into a 90-degree position. And don't worry about it if your shoulder doesn't make it all the way to the mat. Just get where you can get today. And it's all helping your chest to open, that heart space to open. Countering the rounding of our spines, improving our posture. See if you can tune into the rhythm of your breath as you inhale, lengthen, and exhale, twist. Starting to signal to our bodies that we've worked hard and now it's time to rest. Inhale slowly as if you were moving through honey, warm, soft honey. Inhale one leg up at a time. Bring knees to chest. Go ahead and grab your big toes, and we are going to come into happy baby. Now, for some of us, happy baby isn't so happy. If you feel at all vulnerable in this position, you can go ahead and just lower and start to relax in Shavasana. But if it feels good, you can bring your toes up and start to take any movement that feels nice. So knees are kind of coming towards your chest. Maybe you want to rock up and down your spine. Here's a place where you could really listen to your body's needs. I have a bunch of cute little babies in my family, and I'm always amazed at how mobile their bodies are and how flexible they are. Maybe you can channel your inner baby into a time when you moved your body in whatever way that felt good without self-consciousness. And maybe trying to straighten one leg at a time. I'm getting a little knee cracking there, so that's good. And on your next exhale, float your legs down. Take a moment to get as comfortable as possible in this final resting pose. Allow your toes to spill open. Soften your ankle joints. Release the tension in your lower calf. Relax your upper calf and feel that relaxation spread into your knee joint, sending some love to your knees. Sense and feel your thighs and your hips as that wave of relaxation sweeps over them, resting the belly, letting it be loose. Relaxing the back, maybe rolling the shoulders back, broadening the chest if that feels nice. Releasing the shoulders, releasing the arms, the wrists, letting the wrists just fall into the earth. Relaxing the thumb, the pointer finger, sense and feel your middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, and finally sense and feel the palms of your hands. Allow your head to be heavy on the mat. Release your jaw. Smooth the space in between your eyebrows. Let your eyeballs be heavy in their sockets. And as we tune into our breaths, feel that wave of belly, ribs, chest, and exhale, chest, ribs, belly. Inhale, inflating belly, as big as the belly can go. Expand that breath into the ribs, allow it into your chest, maybe even up into your throat. Hold, 2, 3, and exhale from the top down. Feeling your ribs contract, chest contract, belly contract. Try to get all of the air out. And at the bottom of your breath, hold. 2, 3. Take 3 cycles of breath on your own at whatever pace feels good. And as you do, let's take this quality of this class of being present, focusing on our foundation. Let's take this quality with us into our next activity. Remembering that our breath is always there, that our body is taking care of us. In, out, deep, slow, calm, ease. Begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers, inviting sensation back into your body, rolling out your wrists and your ankles. Roll over onto your side. And just take a moment to rest on your side, feeling the effect of your practice of moving mindfully on your body, your mind, and your spirit. Plant your hand onto the mat and press up as slowly as possible, letting your head be the very last thing to come up. Come to seated, taking your time, absolutely no rush. At the end of yoga classes, sometimes we say namaste, and that means the divine light within me acknowledges the divine light within you. And so with that, we'll say namaste.